Hello, welcome to Dirt Nap City. I'm Alex. I'm here with Kelly, and this is the show about interesting people who happen to be dead. In a lot of Latin American cultures, they say that you die twice, right? The one time when you actually stop breathing, and then the second time, when the second time when you die, right?
Is that the day after Halloween? Deus de la Muerta?
You don't die the day after Halloween, but the second time you die is when people stop talking about you.
When your memory is forgotten.
When nobody on earth remembers you anymore and nobody's talking about you. So maybe through this podcast, we'll make sure that these people live in eternity, basically. Because anytime you flip on these podcasts, you'll be preserving these people's memory.
That's right. That's really our goal here at Dirt Nap City.
Is it? Yeah. And like I said, eventually we'll get to all of you.
Well, the goal is for the goal is for me to be the subject at some point, where Alex is just talking by himself.
It's kind of morbid. That's the first episode of what I'll call season 2.
I'm glad you gave me that long. Well, so Alex, I'm sure you picked somebody that everybody's interested to hear about. Now, the interesting thing about this format is the audience already knows who the subject is. Alex, in this case, does, but I don't. I have no idea who he picked. I had hoped it would be someone whose name started with B, since it's episode 2, but his mind doesn't think like that. So I'm thinking it's probably somewhere else in the alphabet, but it could be. I don't know.
Right. It is somewhere else in the alphabet. It's not somebody. There's your first clue. It's not somebody who starts with a B.
Their name does not begin with B.
First or last name.
Okay. Good to know. Is there a B somewhere in their first or last name? Is it
no.
It doesn't even contain a B.
Oh, do you want to make a guess?
I feel like we're playing Wordle here.
You have probably seen this person's image in the last 2-3 days. Ubiquitous. This person's face is everywhere. There's your first clue.
Donald Trump.
So I don't know if I have to remind you of the rules of Dirt Nap City.
Oh yeah. He's maybe he's dead to me, but he's not dead in the clinical sense. So okay, right. I've seen his face. All right. Washington, George Washington does not have a B. So that would be, you'd see him because you have a lot of $1 bills. That's right. I'm making it rain.
Making it rain. It's a second Making It Rain reference. Two in a row.
It's got to be a reoccurring theme.
Sneak that in. Right. It'd be great if we could sneak that into every single episode, talking about organically, just talking about making it rain. I would say also that there's probably most countries that you go to, this person's face can be seen in pretty much any country in the world these days.
Is it Jesus?
No, that would be tough for a 1 hour podcast. That'd be a really, really arrogant of me to select that.
Jesus Christ, Jesus H Christ. No, there's no B in it. That's kind of that's my guiding clue right now. So I've seen his face.
Guess.
I've seen his. Okay, and did you say his face?
I did. This is
a male,
another man. Yeah,
identifies as he him.
Can I tell you when he was born?
Please.
1890.
1890.
Died 1980.
Whoa.
And you still see his face everywhere.
Died in 1980 and you still see his face. George Burns has a B in it. Wilfred Brimley. Why are all these B's popping up? Can you tell me what his profession was?
His profession, he was...
Or what he's famous for.
He is in the food business.
Oh, wait a minute. Dave Thomas from Wendy's.
Well, that would be a good guess, except for you don't really see his face, do you? You see his daughter's face.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, then the Colonel Sanders.
Kelly, we're talking about Colonel Harland Sanders today.
Harlan. Wow.
Colonel Harland Sanders.
He's a real person.
He was a real person. Did you never see him on TV when you were a kid? He used to make the rounds sometimes on talk shows.
I didn't know if that was actually really him or an actor.
It was really him. And
now
did
he does like
dive.
breakdancing and Instagramming and makes it rain and all that stuff.
And I'm sure he wouldn't be happy with any of this, the way he's being portrayed now.
No.
Kind of a cantankerous fellow.
Really?
The more I don't know. With Andre the Giant, the more you got to know him, the more you liked him. The more I dove into the life of Colonel Sanders, the more I kind of didn't like the guy.
Yeah, I mean, please do tell. Was he actually born in Kentucky?
No.
Not even from Kentucky.
Barely had anything to do with Kentucky, and wasn't in the military. Well, he was, but nothing spectacular either. Let me tell you.
Was he actually a colonel?
Kind of. Not really.
Kind of.
Not
wow.
Really. Not really.
You know, I just watched a documentary about Elvis and the colonel that, what was
Colonel Tom Parker.
Colonel Tom Parker. He wasn't really a colonel.
But he was probably more of a colonel than this guy.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not calling Colonel Sanders a fraud.
I wonder if colonel was just almost like a sign of respect back in those days. Like you just called.
No, I'll tell you why he's called colonel. It's like being a knight. In Kentucky, they have a thing where you can be named a Kentucky colonel, and that's like giving knighthood for Kentucky. So it's like being Sir Harlan Sanders, but Kentucky.
So the Queen of Kentucky does this.
The governor of Kentucky does this.
Okay.
And they actually still do that. And then so I thought, there must be a lot of famous Kentucky colonels. And then according to my sources, he was the only one I heard of. So
is this limited to Kentucky? I mean, this seems like maybe Georgia and Tennessee might want to get on the action.
Yeah, I don't know of any other states, or actually Kentucky's not a state, it's a commonwealth. For all you Kentucky listeners out there, don't want to, it's technically a commonwealth of Kentucky. But no, I don't think any other state does this, where they have kind of these, it's not like in Texas, we make somebody a Texas Ranger or anything like that. So no, the closest thing I can liken it to would be being a knight in the UK.
So if you're a Kentucky colonel, do you have any special privileges, like get out of speeding tickets? Can you arrest people? Can you?
I have a feeling that he thought that he had a lot. He could get away with everything. He did get away with a lot. Yeah, there's definitely. Anytime you get pulled over, you just pull a don't you know who I am?
You just put a bucket of chicken. Here you go, officer. Here you go, officer. Yeah.
So did you used to eat buckets of chicken when you were a kid? Like when I remember growing up, there wasn't a lot of fast food was just kind of starting. Of course, you had your McDonald's. We had to drive 40 minutes to a Taco Bell.
Are you talking about when you lived in Michigan or Texas?
Mid 70s.
Oh,
I remember we had a Jack in the Box that was like a real clown's face that you talked into in the little speaker.
It's kind of creepy.
It was like a real Jack in the Box that, and then I remember Burger King, and then we had a place called Burger Chef and Jeff. Did y'all have that here?
No, I never saw or heard of Burger Chef, but that was a Burger King ripoff.
Yeah. But I remember when we would go to like outdoor concerts, you always bring a bucket of chicken. Like that was just our go-to. You'd bring, I don't even know how many pieces were in a bucket. You just bring a bucket of chicken.
Wasn't it called the 5-piece chicken dinner?
Oh man, no, it was more
than that.
Oh my gosh, there's probably 30 pieces in those buckets.
You know something too is that chicken wasn't really a big staple in the American diet until like the 40s or 50s. And if you compare a chicken from that era to a chicken today, chickens today are like 3 times as big and have more meat. They're bred that way, right? Back, the natural chickens were smaller and looked more like a pheasant.
I did not know that, but I know when I was a kid, diving into that extra crispy bucket of chicken was about as good as it got back then. Also on car trips, we would just get a bucket of chicken and some of those little parfaits, the the mashed potatoes with the gravy, which we'll get into. The gravy, gravy was a big thing. But yeah, it seemed like when we were kids, Kentucky Fried Chicken, as it used to be called, not called that anymore.
Yeah, it's called KFC now, right?
Just KFC, unless you're in Canada and it's called PFK.
And if you're in Albuquerque, it's called Hermanos, Pollos Hermanos.
Yeah, different group there. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about
that's the real Colonel, Gus Fring.
No kidding, man. So he dropped out of 7th grade at the age of 12. It's all the education this man got. He said,
so born in 1890, you said?
Right.
So this would have been 1902. He dropped out of school.
Sure. And I have some quotes from him, and I it's hard to read his quotes without doing the imitation.
Okay.
So I don't know if I should try it or if I should just try it in like a different accent or British accent or something. But he says algebra is what drove me off.
That's why he quit school.
He didn't just say that once. Like every interview he ever had, magazine interview, Johnny Carson,
Colonel,
any
why'd
interview.
You quit school at the age of 12?
Algebra is what drove me off. That was kind of his catchphrase. Algebra is what drove me off.
When he said drove me off, he meant like horse and carriage drove.
Yeah. This was the turn of the century. So like so many men back then, he falsified his date of birth and went into the army at age 16 and was sent to Cuba. But he wasn't a colonel or anything. He didn't have any kind of military rank. He was pretty uneventful stint in Cuba. He came back and he just did odd jobs, and he'd get fired from like every job he ever had. He would mostly for fighting and for just being bad at his job. He was insurance salesman and painter, all these things. He just kept getting fired, and he wasn't a very good employee. But he was a young guy because he was already in the military, and he was out of the army, and he was already like 17 years old or 18 years old.
Imagine if you had a fence that Colonel Sanders had painted, how cool that would be.
Well, so then there's very little given about this guy in kind of the popular internet information until 1930, which he's already 40 years old, right?
Yeah. And he's already a decorated war veteran or military service.
Not decorated at all. He was honorably discharged, but not notably.
Hey, we won't disparage that. He still did his service.
Thank you for your service,
Colonel Sanders.
Colonel in quotes, Sanders.
Right? Air quotes, Colonel Sanders.
So he worked for Shell, and they gave him opportunity to buy a gas station, or as they called them back then, service stations, because they did a lot more than sell gas, right?
And that's a Dutch company, right?
Yeah, now, yeah, but not back then.
Oh, it was U.S. based back then?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He had a service station, and they gave it to him, and it was in Kentucky. And that was his first kind of foray into Kentucky. One thing that he did for the weary travelers that would come through his Kentucky, I think Shelbyville, maybe Kentucky, is that he started making chicken and ham.
So you pull in to fill up your tank, and he has a little hot meal for you. This is before you could buy Funyuns and Fritos and Frappuccinos.
There was nothing to eat. There was obviously no fast food places. There was no convenience stores. And you would, you'd go into this place and you'd get chicken and ham, and it was about the best thing you ever had, probably.
Wow.
But then a competitor came across the street and put up a thing, just the same kind of thing. And the colonel had a billboard advertising his service station, and the competitor decided to paint over his billboard.
Oh.
And our friend, the colonel, said, "I'm going to blow his goddamn head off."
Wow.
Which became his new catchphrase, I think.
Right. Instead of algebra drove me off. Wow. Okay.
So he went up there and he repainted the sign.
I mean, I would be pretty mad too if somebody, I wonder if he like tagged it like spray paint, like put a gang sign on it or something.
I think he actually put his own. Like, I think you painted over it and then put information
instead
about
of the
his
arrow
own place.
pointing to Colonel Sanders' place, he pointed the arrow the other direction, and it took the colonel like 6 months to notice. And he's like, "Why is all my business dropped off?"
Yeah. And then he said, "I'm going to blow his goddamn head off." So then he went, painted over it again. They got into a gunfight.
Whoa!
These two, they actually got into a gunfight. Colonel Sanders actually shot the guy in the shoulder, but the other guy killed Colonel Sanders' friend or coworker or whatever. So there was a gunfight
that worked at his place, or
somebody that I think he was actually a representative from Shell, like one of the suits or something. So they get in this gunfight. Colonel Sanders actually shoots this guy, but the other guy kills his guy. And
did he miss? He missed Colonel Sanders and hit the other guy, or the other guy dove and took the bullet. I mean, and we're talking about flintlock pistols here, right?
Now you're
very accurate.
Yeah, now you're writing fan fiction. I don't know how the gunfight went off, but all I know is then, and when you read about this on the internet, everywhere you read it, it kind of ends with the guy dying, and then the next sentence is always, "Now he had no competition."
Wow.
Much like the rap battles of the 2000s, East Coast, West Coast stuff. Here you had east side of the highway, west side of the highway. And the colonel put a cap in his ass. You know?
Yeah. Wow. And he said he was going to do it. So were there any...
The other guy got sent to jail like for life. And now there was no competition. And then...
Wait. Got sent to jail for... So...
Murder.
So the other guy got sent to jail, but Colonel Sanders did not.
Right.
he shot him in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, this other guy killed somebody, which is, objectively worse.
And apparently there were no, I don't know how they knew he said, "I'm going to blow his goddamn head off." That wasn't entered into evidence.
Wow. It
seems like that would be kind of a bad thing to reveal.
The committee didn't subpoena his texts, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways,
did he get his tweet deck? Did he get his tweets, Twitter banned from Twitter after that?
That would have happened today. There's no way he would have been canceled today.
Yeah, true.
But
instead, people started going crazy for his chicken.
Dude, he shot a guy, and then in 1935 they made him a colonel, which is the highest honor anybody in Kentucky. He'd only been there 5 years, and all of a sudden he was like one of Kentucky's best citizens.
The duel happened in 1930.
Between 1930 and 1935, somewhere. So then this is where he starts getting famous, is even though he was already a colonel, there was a guidebook back then where people that were traveling would get and say what the best restaurants.
Like Frommer's? Was it called Frommer's?
Kind of like that. It was a guide to restaurants and gas stations. You know who wrote this book? And you may recognize this name. It was a name of a guy who wrote the book. But it was close, similar to that.
Macmillan.
You're just gonna. This isn't the guessing part of the show.
All right, who was it?
Duncan Hines.
No way.
Yeah,
he's a real guy.
Real guy. Got famous from his guidebooks, and it was a book called
Friends with Colonel Sanders.
No, it was Yelp back then.
Okay,
except for he was the only one rating. I guess it was nothing like that.
If you got featured in the Duncan Hines guidebook, that was like a game changer for your business.
The book was called Adventures in Good Eating.
Adventures in Good Eating.
I'd buy that.
That's what I wanted to call this podcast originally, but Alex nixed it.
So in there, it said, it wasn't like a big review. It just said, here's a place you should try. Lunch is 50 cents to $1. Dinner 60 cents to $1. And that book kind of got him on the map, and anybody that was going through Kentucky, and that was pretty well-traveled road because it was like the road to go to Florida from anywhere in the north. We used to always, I grew up in Michigan, and we used to always drive to Florida. We'd always go through, and my dad would always say, "There's where the original Colonel Sanders was."
What city?
I think it was Shelbyville, Kentucky.
Shelbyville. Okay. They're big rivals with Springfield, right?
Springfield. And actually, you know what? There is a Springfield, Kentucky and a Shelbyville, Kentucky, and they're like 50 miles apart. Now, Matt Groening has never said that that's where it comes from, but I think that's the closest between.
I maintain Springfield, Missouri.
You would, but is there a Shelbyville, Missouri?
Of course. I don't know. Good question. All right, but so Shelbyville, Kentucky, the original. So probably, do you think there's a marker there, like some sort of a historical marker, or is there still a restaurant there? Or what?
Oh yeah, not only is there a there's a restaurant,
like an actual KFC.
Well, that's a long story that I'll hopefully I have time to get to here.
I want a sidebar for 1 second about Xander's chicken. Have you ever had Xander's in
Xander's?
Zenders?
Zenders. Oh yeah. Oh, it's wonderful.
I had that this past summer. If you're ever in Frankenmuth, Michigan, that's a German town north of Detroit. Zenders.
Oh, it's great. Family style.
Yeah.
We used to do road races, fun runs. They had a 10K and a 20K up there, and it was always on the 4th of July. Probably still do it up there.
So my thing was I did a bike ride. It was a 50K 50K or 100K bike ride, and I did the.
And you get done, and they just give you all the chicken you can eat. And that's damn good chicken too.
Yeah.
I like it. So if you're listening from Zenders right now, and you want to throw some,
if you want to sponsor Dirt Nap City, please, we're taking. We could take our sponsorship in chicken, or if you work for KFC.
No, I'm serious, Zenders. If you're listening. This is the last free advertisement you're getting. We give you the first one free.
That's right.
After that, you got to pay.
But you're going to notice instead of a 20-minute wait for dinner tonight, it's going to be a 22-minute wait because that's called the Dirt Nap City bump.
I didn't know this was going out live, but
the DNC bump. No, I mean whenever the episode goes out. So okay. So Zenders. Different story. Back to Kentucky Fried Chicken in Shelbyville.
It was just a gas station. I don't even think it was called Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was just a gas station. But in 1952, he decided to franchise it and build one in. Do you know where the first place there was actually a Kentucky Fried Chicken? The very first Kentucky Fried Chicken was not in Kentucky. That was just a gas station.
I'm going to guess California.
Salt Lake City.
Wow. Who knew?
Salt Lake City, Utah. They had a deal where they would have a place that was called Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then they paid him Colonel Sanders would get 4 cents per chicken that they sold.
I guess it would make sense to open Kentucky Fried Chicken outside of Kentucky, because if it was in Kentucky, they would just call it fried chicken, right?
Exactly. That's a good point. It was more exotic. If it was
it's like Texas Roadhouse, right? There's a Texas Roadhouse place here. Why? I mean, I could understand if you're in Oklahoma, then you call it the Texas Roadhouse. But if it's here,
if you're in London, you'd want to go to the Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
not really. It's not a great place.
Like, do you think there's any Outback Steakouts in the Outback
in Australia?
Actually, in the Outback.
I think that would be a didgeridoo.
Yeah, good one. So he started franchising these things. And in 1963, he came up with his slogan. Do you remember the slogan for Kentucky Fried Chicken? It's finger licking good, which really, when you think about it, has got to be one of the grossest taglines of any restaurant ever. Like, if you just heard that, we've been hearing it our whole lives, but can you imagine if somebody came out today?
Like in the pitch meeting for the restaurant, you're like, I got it, folks.
You're supposed to lick your fingers and then put them back into the bucket. This is a shared food.
Okay, but when you got a bucket, when you were going to your concerts or on the road trip with your family, did you lick your fingers?
It was the Doobie Brothers was my first concert, and we had a bucket of chicken.
Did you lick your fingers as you ate it?
I'm sure I did.
Be honest. Yeah,
I'm sure I did.
Yeah. Did you wash your hands? Did you wash your hands before you?
They didn't have wet wipes back then.
So, and you survived.
That's the only way you could get your fingers clean, was to lick them back then.
I think part of the problem, with people today, and part of the reason we have COVID, quite honestly, this can be my first conspiracy rant, is because we're all too clean, and we don't lick our fingers enough. We don't eat food off the ground anymore. We don't believe in the 10-second rule. If people did more of that, our immune systems would be stronger, and COVID wouldn't exist.
Okay, that's an opinion, though. Make sure you say that's an opinion.
That is strictly the opinion of this show, Alex and I together.
No, I might even call it a half-baked opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm in character, so please continue. I do believe, though, I do eat food off the ground. I do believe in the 10-second rule. And
there actually is a theory about that. About actually hand sanitizer making us more prone to getting sick.
Can't argue with science, man.
Nothing to do with COVID. All right, so back to the Colonel. He was most proud of his gravy.
Aren't you?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I wonder how many times on Dirt Nap City we'll say that about somebody. They was most proud of his gravy, and this was what he said. It'll make you throw away the damn chicken and just eat the gravy.
Wow. There's lots of great quotes from that man.
He was a quotable guy.
Did you just Google Colonel Sanders quotes? Is that where you get these?
I have taken such a deep dive into this, man.
Notable quotables.
So he sold KFC to investors in 1964. 1964. Way before you and I were born. He sold it for $2 million, which is the equivalent of $19 million today.
Wow, it still doesn't seem like quite enough.
I'll just tell you that KFC did $2.8 billion in revenue last year.
Is KFC part of Yum Brands now?
Yeah, KFC, Yum
Bell. Brands is Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. And I think they're somehow involved with Pepsi is in that.
So he was wealthy by those standards, but probably could have done more. Now, of course, he was pretty old by then, right? He was 70-something?
In 1964, he would have been 74. Yeah, do you take the $2 million?
Maybe he just wanted to
cash out
and take some time and, travel the country licking his fingers.
Just to give you an idea what $19 million is today. I mean, that's what Mark Cuban's house sold for.
19 million.
So, I mean, that's not a ton of money. I mean, it is a ton of money, but not for what became KFC.
But at the time, how many do you know at the time when he sold it? It wasn't as big as it is today.
Well, I saw an interview with him from like 1979, and he was bragging that it did $2 billion in revenue. So it was just about as big as it is today. There was less competition back then.
I wonder if he had some sort of residual, like sold it and then, was able to keep some small percentage. No, 4 cents per chicken.
No, in fact, not only that, but he kept trying to get so let me tell you what happened is, so he sold it. So, but they kept him on as the quote unquote spokesperson, right? So his name and image he was an employee.
This is the third time this has come up, right? We talked about this with Bob Ross. We talked about this with Andre the Giant, and now someone else. We need to get control of our image and likeness pretty soon. Yeah,
I think you have control of my image and likeness
at this point. Yeah. I'm gonna make T-shirts.
Yeah, that's not good. But here's the funny part. So he was supposed to be a spokesperson, and they were paying him just like as an employee. But he constantly was trashing the place. He said that the food was terrible now that he's not in charge anymore. He hated the food. He called it goddamn slop.
Wow.
One time he went into
on him, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I'm just saying this so we can get the little E on the
right. For excellent.
He didn't actually. He just said it was slop. I added the goddamn.
Oh, okay. Little poetic license.
Yeah. But he would go into a KFC and he would throw it on the floor and say, "This is goddamn slop." And he said it was sludge, and he said the gravy had turned into sludge, and then it tasted like wallpaper.
Which you wonder what his point of reference for that was.
Here's an exact quote. "My God, that gravy is horrible. They buy tap water for 15 to 20 cents, 1,000 gallons, and then they mix in with flour and starch and end up with pure wallpaper paste. And I know wallpaper paste, by God, because I've seen my mother make it. There's no nutrition in it, and they ought not to be allowed to sell it. The crispy fried chicken recipe is nothing in the world but a damn fried dough ball stuck in some chicken." And he was the spokesperson for this.
Now, he didn't say this in the commercials. I never saw the commercial where he said those
things. Not in the commercial. But so he kept trying to have like a real, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Ninfa's in Houston.
Oh, yeah.
But like there's the family, like the original Ninfa's, and then the family has. So it's like that. He has a place called the Claudia Sanders Dinner House. And he kept on trying to call it something that was like Claudia Sanders Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they'd sue him. And then you call it like the Colonel's wife's chicken house. You know, he kept on trying different things. But today you can go to Claudia Sanders Dinner House, and it's like the original recipe. And they're the only restaurant that's allowed to still
11 herbs and spices, right? So really, do you remember, Alex? Because I think you and I shared this experience here in Austin. There was Dan's Burgers, and then Dan and Fran were the couple, and they got divorced. And then there was Fran's Burgers, and they looked exactly the same food, same recipes. You really, when you found a business or a restaurant, you really got to think about these things. Like, what happens if it goes south with my spouse, or if I sell, or whatever. But I kind of don't sympathize with him too much, because he cashed out and he didn't have the sense to write some of that stuff into the contract and then to go back and trash them. Wow.
Yeah. But also, in his defense, can you imagine you make, what you think is the greatest chicken on earth, and then you sell out, and then they just like change the recipe and make it like, and your name's still on it, your face is still on it, and now it's making you look bad.
It's like Krusty the Clown, like, how he endorses all those products, and they're all, I mean, he shouldn't do that.
Hey. Currently, the KFC Twitter account, they only follow 11 people. The KFC Twitter account only follows 11 people. Do you know who they follow?
I'm going to say they follow probably, give me a second, Mitch McConnell.
I'll give you a hint. No, I'll give you that's a good guess, because he's the only one that can make well, no, he's not the governor, but
he probably is a governor. He probably is a colonel, actually. He probably has that.
He might be. No, let me give you a hint. You've already alluded to it a few minutes ago. No.
Zender's Chicken?
No.
Oh gosh, I allude to so many things.
Well, let me help you here. One of them, I'll give you one, and then you might be able to give me the rest.
Okay.
One of them is Herb Alpert.
And the Tijuana Brass. These are the people that KFC's Twitter account follows. They follow
11 people. No, one of them is Herb Alpert.
Twitter account anymore.
Another one
is
Herb Sendek.
Oh, it's 11 herbs. Herb Tarlick.
Herb Scribner. Herb Wesson. Herb Waters. Herb Dean. And all of the Spice Girls. The 5 Spice Girls. So they follow 6 guys named Herb and the Spice Girls.
That's actually pretty brilliant. Good on if the social media manager for Yum Brands is listening right now, and you're looking for a show to sponsor. We think you're really brilliant. We'd love to work with you.
Did you know that the place where University of Louisville plays basketball is the KFC Yum Center?
Well, I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
I just think it's funny to play in the Yum Center. Shout out to Lexington and Louisville, for that matter. Yeah, and Shelbyville.
and Springfield. Let's keep it even.
And shout out to the Claudia Sanders Dinner House too.
Yes.
I don't know how much, and I'm not sure you're in strict competition with Zenders, but I mean, I'm sure they're both fine chicken places, and I'll bet you it's a lot better than a KFC. And if they ever went to Kentucky, they'd do Claudia Sanders Dinner House.
I'll bet they would. Yeah.
Now, if you went to Claudia Sanders Dinner House, I was looking at the menu.
Was Claudia his wife? Who was Claudia?
Yeah, well, I was like his third wife or fourth wife or something. Yeah, he had a. I didn't go down this rabbit hole, but I saw that he was quite the womanizer.
Really?
I don't need to bring that here to Dirt Nap City.
They probably really liked his gravy.
It'll make you throw away the damn chicken and just eat the gravy.
I don't know if he meant throw away or choke, but let's go with that.
Now, would you like to hear about the curse of the Colonel?
The curse of the Colonel. Yes. Is that when you eat your popcorn too fast and you choke on it?
Gravy. No. So, baseball is big in Japan, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a team there called the Hanshin Tigers. Okay. And for some reason, there was there's outside the stadium, there was at a lot of international KFCs, they, for some reason, have like a statue of Colonel Sanders.
Okay.
I've seen this in multiple, like in Russia, I think they have one. It's just like a thing that they do. I don't think they do that here. I've never seen one.
Is it like the beaver outside of Buc-ee's, that little bronze beaver?
Yeah. Okay. Exactly.
It's like for selfies.
In 1985, the Hanshin Tigers won the championship, and the fans went crazy, and they took the statue and they threw it in the Hanshin River as a celebration, right? They just were out of their minds. They were out of their minds. They were going crazy. They took the statue. Yeah. And they were just like celebrating with it, and they just threw it in the river.
But let me ask a quick question about the statue for context. Because in the Andre the Giant episode, we talked about how big the statue of someone should be. Was this life size or larger than life size?
I think it was smaller than life size. And I think it was similar to like when you go outside the, what's the pretzel restaurant? There's the guy like holding the,
are you talking about Kip's Big Boy or Shoney's Big Boy, the big boy with the
enormous statues
with the tray?
Those are enormous statues. No, this is like a statue that holds a free sample in his hand, right?
I don't know that must be a Michigan thing.
No. Anyways, it was a smaller than life size statue, and I have a feeling it was probably hollow as well, and probably weighed 20 pounds.
Yeah. Wasn't very
not
well
a big deal.
Down.
No, not like it wasn't like in honor of him. It was just to show that this is KFC. So they took this statue,
like a little yard sign, like a little sign.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, like a gnome.
I thought
a little bigger
I was
than a
thinking
yard
more
gnome.
like the sort of, again, I think the beaver at Buc-ee's is more of that thing is substantial.
Yeah. So they took this statue and they like were celebrating, carrying him over their head, and they tossed it in the river. And then that team went on to have an 18-year losing streak. And much like the curse of the Billy Goat, the curse of the Bambino, and other curses that we have in American sports, they were certain that was the problem. They called it the curse of the Colonel. They actually, in 2009, they actually excavated. They like dredged up the statue from the river. They like drained the river, found the statue, put it back up. And I think they won. They started winning like immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah,
that's the curse
that. If you stuck around for however far into the show we are so far, that's a nugget right there, people. You got to appreciate Alex for that. So thank you. I feel smarter.
And speaking of nuggets, throughout the world, I don't think there is a KFC that sells chicken nuggets. They've never got on that train. Now, there are some interesting food items. For example, in Canada, they have the Big Boss. The Big Boss is a Big Mac with chicken instead.
Wait, is that at KFC or PFC, or what did you say it was up there?
PFK.
PFK. What does that stand for? Pollo
Free Kentucky.
Why is it French?
Yeah. The Big Boss is basically the exact same thing as a Big Mac, but it's with chicken instead.
But wait, is this at McDonald's or is this at
No, it's at PFK.
So
but they just
like,
ripped off the Big Mac. It's
so
two chicken
patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese,
pickles
and onions on a sesame seed bun.
Yeah. What a great campaign that we can still remember that like 40 years later. I think my favorite of the KFC items that don't exist here is in Australia. They have what they call gravy mashies. And gravy mashies are like these little nuggets of dough. Well, they're not dough. They're mashed potato, like fried mashed potatoes, deep fried mashed potatoes injected with the gravy, the aforementioned gravy.
Yeah. Is this the good version of the gravy or the tap water version?
It's the shit version of the gravy.
The wallpaper glue.
Right. So gravy mashies. And I even watched a commercial for gravy mashies where these guys are like going to the beach and they got a surfboard on the car and they're popping gravy mashies in their mouth, and they're all having a great time.
Gravy mashies.
Gravy mashies. In Malaysia, they have paper wrapped chicken. In the Philippines, they have a double down dog, which is a hot dog wrapped in a chicken breast.
Wow.
So it's not just, you might think the U.S. has all these crazy, stupid foods, but, Singapore has them too. Philippines has them too. South Africa has nacho cheese crunch burger, which is a chicken dunked in nacho cheese sauce topped with a slice of cheese, Doritos, and mayo.
So this is all available at KFC's, international KFC's.
Exactly.
If you're in another country, you've traveled internationally. I've traveled internationally. If the audience has been somewhere else, you generally avoid American fast food restaurants because you don't, you're like, I can get that at home. But it sounds like maybe you can't get it at home. This may be stuff that is unique.
Yeah, go to Singapore, get some shrimp stars or some fish donuts at KFC.
At KFC, yeah.
Get some chizza. You know what a chizza is? The chizza is it's
pizza with Cheetos.
It's pizza with chicken as a base instead of dough. So it's a giant piece of chicken. Picture like a chicken fried chicken,
right?
Yeah,
it's like chicken fried steak. It's like kind of flat, and it's like a patty, and it has breaded
mozzarella and pepperoni and tomato sauce on top of a chicken.
That actually sounds pretty good.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, truffle, Parmesan chicken, all this kind of stuff.
Well, truffle always kicks it up.
You may remember that a few years back, they started a campaign of having stand-up comedians play the Colonel in different ads, and they started with Daryl Hammond, who did a pretty good imitation, of the Colonel, and then they went to Norm Macdonald. Fired. And so people thought, he got fired. They got this guy instead. But I think that was part of their campaign, was to try to change him out. Jim Gaffigan came after that. George Hamilton came famously for being, he's famous for being tan. I think he came up, they had like a golden chicken at the time.
Right.
Rob Riggle, Billy Zane, Rob Lowe.
These people have all been the Colonel in commercials.
All played the Colonel in the last 10 years. Ray Liotta.
Wow.
Another candidate for Dirt Nap City someday. Reba McEntire came on to advertise their Nashville hot chicken, and she played the Colonel. And then Seinfeld's Jason Alexander actually has played the Colonel too, all within the last 5-10 years.
Was the Colonel still around when they rebranded from Kentucky Fried Chicken to KFC, or was
no? I don't think so. No, that would have been like in this century, I think, when they stopped. When fried became kind of a bad word, and they started people knew it as KFC, anyways.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that the Colonel would not be happy with KFC Taco Bell, for example, KFC Pizza Hut. I think he would really hate.
I mean, those collabs.
It's a little disorienting to go to a KFC Taco Bell, I have to say.
But those are usually in gas stations, aren't they?
No,
like
we have one
travel
right
centers?
around. No, I could leave right now and be back in 10 minutes with some KFC Taco Bell. There's one right by my house.
Okay. So it's its own freestanding thing.
The menu is enormous. And you have to say, like, if you're driving through and you're getting a meal combo, you have to say whether you want T5 or a K5 or, you have to say which side of the house you want something from. You could get both. You could get a bean burrito and gravy if you want. In fact, that's some of the games we play is what's the worst combination of items from KFC Taco Bell that you could get together. So,
you just get the gravy by itself on one side.
Yeah, you pour it on the Mexican pizza.
Right. Smother your taco in it. You could say, let me get a burrito, but instead of hot sauce, pour the gravy on it. Wow.
You could get, but I don't think you could get a chicken taco with extra crispy chicken. I don't think they'll do. They won't cross streams like that.
Yeah. The chicken is that's because the Taco Bell chicken comes from south of the border, and the other chicken comes from Kentucky. So yeah, different types of chicken.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's my deep dive into Harland Sanders.
He was 90 when he died.
Yeah. And, ever since he became the colonel, he kind of took on that outfit, and he wore that outfit every day of his life. And he had like a summer version and a winter version.
Like wool versus cotton.
Yeah, exactly.
That wasn't just when he was on TV or getting photographed. That was like when he was walking around, going to the store. He wore that outfit.
Yeah. And I was watching, there's not a lot of YouTube interviews of him, but there's a really good one where he was on the 700 Club. You remember the 700 Club?
Yeah. It was a religious show, right?
It was him and Jim Baker, the later disgraced Jim Baker.
Wow.
Was interviewing him, and he brought out a bucket of chicken. This was like right before he died, like not right before he died, but like a year before he died. And he brought it out, and they gave everyone in the audience like a piece of chicken, and they passed around the bucket. There's all these old ladies, they were passing around the bucket, but he was doing the interview, and in the middle of the interview, he stops what his answer, and he says, "I can't even talk. I'm smelling that chicken, and it smells so good. Let's pass some out." And I mean, he really, really sold it, man. When he wasn't trashing it, he really liked chicken.
And you could say maybe in that show he literally kicked the bucket.
Oh, I think we should end on that.
Yeah. Well, Alex, that was fascinating. Really, really good choice. Not like you said, it's somebody whose face we've all seen. If you live in the U.S., certainly you just see it driving down the road. If you live near a city, even a small town.
Think of the faces like that are like you mentioned Wendy.
Yeah.
But that's Wendy.
I don't know. For some reason, I can see Dave Thomas in my head because you see him on.
Yeah, he became a spokesperson later, but the faces that you still see, there are not a lot of faces out there that you still see.
The Wendy's logo has like a secret in it. It's like I don't remember what it is, but have you ever looked at some of those?
So it says mom.
Okay. Yeah. So I wonder if there's a secret in the KFC logo. We should look for that.
Yeah. And if you're one of the Herbs, it'd be great to follow us too on our Twitter. What's our Twitter account?
Dirt Nap City. At Dirt.
No,
Nap
I actually
City,
think I looked that up. There actually is somebody that has that. City.
Well, follow them then.
Yeah, follow them. See how many Herbs we can get to follow them. That person.
I'm really disappointed that Herb Tarlick wasn't in there.
Because he's fictional and he wouldn't have a Twitter account.
I think a lot of fictional people do have Twitter accounts.
I recognize the first two Herbs. Herb Alpert, of course, great trumpet player, and Herb Sendek, college basketball coach from
Whipped Cream and Other Delights
back in the day. Yeah, Whipped Cream and Other Delights. Maybe I don't think he's dead though.
Is he still around?
If you're still around, Herb Alpert, and you want to
reach out.
Here, reach out. Yeah, we'd love to.
Your ears burning?
We'll plug your latest album.
Yeah.
And follow us. I don't even know if they follow KFC back, But
they don't even probably know that KFC follows them.
You're one of the 11 people and you don't even follow them back. But Spice Girls is a nice touch.
That's pretty clever, though. That's pretty clever.
Sure.
Honestly,
because it's not 11 different herbs plus spices. It's 11 herbs and spice together.
Yeah. They got the semantics correct.
Oh, and apparently the recipe, the famous recipe, it's like under lock and key somewhere. But I've read some things that nobody actually knows where it is, and the new company definitely doesn't follow it.
Yeah, it's too expensive.
I'm sure salt and pepper are two of them.
Yeah,
we can probably guess.
I'm gonna guess flour.
That's not an herb or a spice.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm trying to come up with the 11 herbs and spices.
Yeah. What about like cayenne?
No, it's not really that spicy. Probably yeah. Well, if you know the recipe, and you want to break a story,
we'll do it here. Or
Kelly at Dirt Nap City.
Honestly, though, I hope that everybody who listened, when they drive down the road and they see the Colonel's smiling face on that sign,
and you will,
they think of us and they think of what they learned today. Because really, it's all about learning. It's all about learning and giving and sharing and loving.
How about every time you drive by a KFC, give us a holler, give us a follow.
Yeah.
Listen to an episode.
Let's do that.
I wonder when the next time either one of us will go to KFC. You think
I
this
might
will
go
make
today.
More likely? You might. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Kind of got me craving fried chicken.
We should both go now and order a chizza. And then when they say we don't have that, say, then just give me an order of gravy mashies.
Just keep ordering stuff that's not on the menu.
Well, just give me a big boss, goddammit. And then ask if the gravy is the real gravy or if it's the slop. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening to this absurd rendition of Dirt Nap City and our deep dive into Harland Sanders' life and death. See you next time on Dirt Nap City.